Hi, I'm Sam Hayes, and I'm author of the new book, Remember Henry Harris, who was the first black athlete at Auburn University. And I wanted to talk today, take this opportunity at the Martin Luther King National Holiday to just talk about Henry's relationship with Dr. King as far as being an inspiration figure to Henry. Henry grew up in Greene County out in West Alabama, very rural county, and he was uh, in Greene County. Dr. King wasn't somebody you read about in a textbook like we do now, or somebody that was you saw on the news. Dr. King was real. He was someone who walked among the people of Greene County in their struggle for freedom and justice at that time. He supported them in their quest for the right to vote after passage of the Rights Act, and he supported them in their protest for equal treatment under the law there in Greene County, which led to a boycott of local businesses that were discriminatory toward uh, Black Americans. So he was someone they they knew. He walked among them. He was he inspired them, lifted them up, gave them hope of what was possible. Now, you have to understand that Greene County was, at that time in the 60s, the sixth poorest county in America. And it was also had the largest African American population percentage wise of any county in Alabama. It was 84% uh, African American. And despite that, there was life there was still very oppressive in the 60s, and it was, the black Americans there still called the large farms plantations there. So only a little bit of progress had been made. But Dr. King changed that when he came in. They began to get the right to vote, and with that, total change would come. He allowed them to see what was possible if they could fully participate in the American democracy. Now, interestingly, just 2 weeks before he was murdered on April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, he spoke in Greene County. He was there to rally support for his Poor People's Campaign in the summer, that summer. And when news hit Greene County that he had been assassinated, it was devastating for the students. Teenagers went to Greene County training school the next morning on that Friday morning. They were crushed. This was not only an icon. This was their role model. This guy had been there among them. He cared about them, and their sense of loss was just enormous. Henry Harris was a part of the senior class that year. And when he graduated a couple of months later as valedictorian of Greene County Training School, he he went off on his own civil rights assignment, so to speak. He went to Auburn University as the first black athlete on basketball scholarship, as well as the first black athlete on any kind of athletic scholarship at Auburn, or for that matter, the University of Alabama. He had caught the spirit, essentially, that had swept through Greene County. Uh, he was, willing to be used. Uh, Dr. King had that kind of power with people. He helped them see the vision of what was possible. His leadership lifted them up, and they joined in the movement, and they were willing to make their own sacrifices. This is what Dr. King had been doing since he he decided to lead the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. He didn't want to at first. He'd just taken over as the pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, but he was finally convinced that he was the person to do this, and he was willing. He was willing to be used, and so he stepped forward. So, for Henry, what he did was desegregate or integrate athletics in the Deep South college sports. Helped to do that. He was clearly one of the first, and that was important because that had been stonewalled for a long time. The Southern universities, even after they were integrated, they continued to keep their athletics, what was put out on the field, the public image. They continued to keep that segregated, and it had been delayed so long that it was occurred in the latter stages of the civil rights movement. That's why it's often mistakenly not included in the civil rights movement. It was very much a part of the civil rights movement because this was a very important athletics. College athletics was hugely important in the South. The older folks, Henry would say later when he was at Auburn, when friends would ask him, why'd you do it? And he said he did it for the old folks. They'd tell him it was time. Somebody has to do it. And inspired by Dr. King, Henry Harris was willing to be used.